Okay, I just got home from work. It's 5:20. I work a 9 to 5, and it is time to make dinner. Think I'm gonna do tofu and rice and some broccoli. I just need to see what I have, so that will determine what I'm eating. Been trying to watch something, but I have no idea what to watch. I'm so bored of TV and movies and YouTube, and I feel like no one is making anything that I actually like. So if anyone has any suggestions, please let a girl know. I am desperate for entertainment. I don't want to be scrolling on my phone all the time, so here goes dinner. Found some broccoli. I usually like to bake my vegetables because I honestly am not good when it comes to eating my greens. So I like to bake them and char them to a crisp, and that way I eat them. I've been reading, so I finished reading Throne of Glass, and I am not a fantasy girly at all. I feel like in the past they've been like way too in-depth and way too like complicated for me. I'm not stupid, but like I like an easy read sometimes, and I don't want to have to like get to page 300 to even find out like what's going on in the book. I want it to be kind of obvious. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but if you've read it, you kind of understand. They go right into the story, and I prefer that. I did try to read Sarah J. Maas, the Court of Roses and Thorns, whatever that was. And I think I got like I said, maybe 100 pages in, and it just like lost me. Like I still wasn't gripped yet, and honestly, like my ADHD, I cannot just sit through a boring ass book. Like it has to be interesting to me, otherwise I'm not gonna read it. But I will say for sure I enjoyed Throne of Glass. I think they get really like just right into the story. You don't need like the whole world building thing. I appreciate that, but I kind of like it along the way. Like I don't want to be bombarded with terms and characters that like I don't fucking know or care about, because it's just too much. And then the whole, I don't know, it's just too much sometimes. So this one I really liked because it was more like throughout the book you got details, and then it was like kind of started making more sense to me. But anyway, I did finish that one a couple days ago, and then I picked up the next book in the series. I think it's called Crown of Midnight. I have to double check, but you know, it's just like the sequel to the first one. And I'm already liking it so far, and I am impressed with myself. I do not, like I said, I'm not a fantasy girly. It's not something I've ever really been into. I prefer like a, I don't know, like a mystery, but that like realistic fiction type thing. Something that could like actually happen. I mean, I've read some fantasy books, but like not since I was really like honestly like in middle school or something. So it's very refreshing to feel like I have a new genre to read, and I would highly suggest, if you don't normally like fantasy or whatever, like that kind of genre, I would definitely recommend this one. Like I said, I'm not stupid, but like sometimes I like things to just be quicker paced, and I like it to just like get to the point. I don't want to be like completely understanding the world like right off the bat. It's too much information. It's too many like new things going on. So I would definitely recommend this for anyone who doesn't know where to start in terms of fantasy books. And I'm excited to keep reading. I was reading like low-key at my job today. Probably shouldn't have been, but that shit gets so boring, and I need a break every so often. So I take my walk and I read my little Kindle book, and it's lovely. Okay, so I cut all my broccoli up. I like to like drizzle some olive oil over it. Low-key probably too much olive oil, but hey, whatever makes me eat my greens, to be honest with you. I may eat a lot, but that's what I had, and I don't want to waste, so I will probably end up eating like 3/4 of this and save the rest for when Jared gets home from his appointment. That way he has something to eat, because I know he's gonna be hungry. Okay, so I have a feeling that the Trader Joe's tofu is gonna be silken, and I don't mind that, but it's gonna determine whether I'm making rice or making the these things, the spicy Korean rice cakes. And it's because I don't really, I mean, I can't like stir fry silken tofu, but I also have super firm, and I just don't really, this has like, it's like so firm. I prefer the extra firm instead of the super firm, just because I like my tofu like a little bit bouncy. Not, I like it firm. I like the firm ones, but like, you know, sometimes it's like too firm. Like I like to have a squish when I'm eating it. So if this is regular, like kind of like semi-firm tofu and not silken, I'm gonna pan fry it and do regular rice. If it is silken, then I'm gonna throw these in, start those, and then like towards the end I'll put the silken tofu in there, so it's kind of like a soup or something. I really miss sundubu, but there's no good places to have sundubu around here. And when I was living in Ann Arbor, that's all I fucking wanted to eat was, Helmikin makes this like really delicious sundubu. So spicy. It's just so rich and delicious, and I miss that shit so bad. But like I said, okay, it's firm. It's firm, so I'm gonna cut it into like little cubes, and that'll be like the last thing I do, to be honest, because it only needs like 5-10 minutes on the pan, just to like, you know, crisp up the edges and stuff. And then I'm probably gonna start my rice now. My broccoli's in the oven, and we'll save these for another day. It's actually crazy how little rice you need to make, like you know, half a cup seems like nothing, and then when it actually hydrates, it's so much rice that I don't even, like, I've learned that I just need it like the tiny littlest bit, especially for one person. Since I'm making some in hopes that Jared will eat some when he comes home, I am making a little bit more than like half a cup, but again, like that's like gonna be a lot, and it is what it is. I like rice. I also feel like I've finally learned how to cook rice properly. Like, when I had a rice cooker, I almost felt like I didn't need to, like, rinse it and get, you know, the rice water kind of off of it or whatever, like the starch in there. But I didn't, like, now that I don't have a rice cooker, which I honestly don't even care because that shit was like a mess to clean. It always overheated and got stuck on the bottom. So like, fuck a rice cooker. If you have a pot, I would just recommend using a pot. I mean, I'm sure people already know how to cook rice, but like I was kind of stupid and thought that a rice cooker was like easier. I mean, it's like, I guess you don't have to look at it so much, like check it or stir it or whatever. But again, that shit got disgusting. I don't want to scrape sticky rice off the bottom of the rice cooker every single time I go to make rice. And this way, like, if I'm constantly stirring it or at least looking after it, you know what I mean? Like, it just won't be stuck. I've also learned, like, maybe like halfway through it, like, simmering, I will take it to the sink again and like wash it as it's cooking, and then put more water in it and let it absorb it. And I feel like that's the best way that I've learned, that actually, like, you know, you don't end up with like half cooked rice, which is disgusting, you know, like crunchy in the middle rice. And then it's also like not too like soft, or it's not like mush or whatever. But it was a lot of, I eat a lot of rice, so it was a lot of like testing and figuring out what works, and then, you know, process of elimination, like trying it out for myself. So I'm gonna let this simmer now. If anyone has ever had a cat that is this messy, you will know just like the struggle. I mean, I grew up with cats that were so chill, and they weren't messy, they didn't like have accidents. They were really just there to be cuddly and cute, and, you know, we looked after them and like took care of them, and they lived a good life. And I thought in adulthood, like, wow, like my cats were so easy as a kid, like that must mean every cat is easy and won't have issues. And I mean, I didn't think, no, you know, every cat wouldn't have issues, but I just never expected to have a cat with like tummy trouble, and he has just been like hemorrhaging my money. I mean, I have no savings anymore. He's, like I said, his kibble, his dry kibble, like his dry food, literally $70 a bag. I do feed him wet food as well, and that's even more expensive. His prescription wet food is $99.99 for a 24 count of those little tins. And I'm sorry, like, I'm used to paying $1.50 for those wet food tins. Like, my cats growing up, if they wanted wet food, we got it for them, but it was cheap, like almost cheaper than the dry food somehow. And I will just tell you, it has been a lot of money spent on this cat, like so much money, and he's worth it. Like, he's a sweet cat and everything, but man, you gotta know that before you get a cat, because they're not all gonna be cheap, they're not all gonna be easy, you know, no vet issues. He has so many, he's been to the vet, like, he gets B12 injections. What kind of cat gets B12 injections? Like, I know old people and like people who are vitamin deficient who get that, but like, never did I once, you know, it never crossed my mind that a cat would need B12 injections. And he does, and I get them for him every month. Okay, so my tofu is like pressed. I'm just gonna pour that excess moisture into the sink. And like I said, I don't want to squish my tofu. Like, it kind of is, like, do you see how it's like bowing out at the end? I don't really, like, that's getting close to being squished completely, and that's not what I want. So that is why I press it for like, you know, 2 minutes, and then I'm just gonna cut it into cubes, nice and easy. This is like the perfect tofu. I was nervous because it didn't say firm, it didn't say soaking, it did not say extra firm, which I'm used to. And so I was nervous. I was like, what? I had no idea what consistency this was gonna be, but it's like the perfect consistency. If you're scared to eat tofu, don't be scared to eat tofu. It's, you know, a really good vegan option to get some extra protein if you know, if you're vegan. I'm not necessarily vegan, but I do try to eat a lot of vegan food. My boyfriend is vegan and has been for like 10 plus years at this point. And so, I mean, when I was in Ann Arbor and there was like endless vegan options, I was eating like 100% vegan for like 3 years. I mean, maybe like the occasional cheese pizza or whatever when I was out there, but I went gluten-free this year, and that has limited my options like a ton. I feel like it's really hard in the Metro Detroit area to be both gluten-free and vegan. You just don't have that many options when you're eating out. Like, I've had to make a lot of stuff from scratch. if I want, you know, a gluten-free and vegan dinner, or lunch, or anything for that matter. There are like options obviously in the grocery stores for that kind of stuff, but even then, like, everything gluten-free like has egg or dairy in it. Like, there's never gluten-free and vegan. And like, surprisingly, the Trader Joe's, like, this is like one of the first breads that I bought. It's like a gluten-free baguette. It's one of the first gluten-free breads I bought, or very few gluten-free breads I bought, that actually is vegan and gluten-free. And it's not that good. It's alright, right? Like, it's fine, but that's sorghum gum or whatever the hell they're putting in that shit to like bind it or make it bouncy. I don't know what it does even. But it's just not, it tastes weird. It doesn't. I'm like, gonna flip my broccoli now. It's probably been in the oven like 10, 20. But I do put the oven pretty hot so that, like I said, I char my broccoli. And I'll still go ahead and flip it though and get extra char because I just love it that way. Some people like their stuff steamed. Some people like it raw. I don't know. And I don't mind raw broccoli. For some reason, I hate steamed broccoli. You could not pay me to eat that. But I really like it like completely just uncooked and unseasoned. I'll eat like a head of broccoli like that, honestly. Haven't done it in a while because I do like charring my broccoli to a crisp, but I would do it in a pinch. I don't like steamed anything. I feel like I'm a crunch kind of a girl. If it doesn't have a crunch, like, do I want it? Probably not. So I'm just trying to make sure that, like, I'm flipping it all onto the other side. That way it's nice and crispy. And it's gonna stay in the oven for another like 10 or 15 minutes because, like I said, this stuff is gonna be black when it comes out, but I don't care. I prefer it that way. It might lose some of its like chlorophyll or whatever you get from green plants, but I don't really care because that's how I like it. So that's gonna go in for a while. I did, as you saw, I was cutting up my tofu. And it only needs like 5 or 10 minutes on the skillet, but then I have to whip up my sauce that it's gonna go in. So I'm gonna do that now. Well, I guess I'll put my tofu on the cast iron now and just let it like sit really low temperature for a little bit while I make the sauce. Because this is a pretty quick meal. I mean, it's been like a half an hour, but I've been like prepping it and everything. And it'll be done in like 15 minutes. And it's pretty easy, simple. I also cleaned a little bit, so that took some time. But I will just, I olive oil the pan, let the oil like heat up for a second. And then once that's like warm, I will put the tofu on there. In the meantime, I'm gonna get like a small little Tupperware, some ketchup, some gochujang, some tamari instead of soy sauce. That's like the gluten-free version. And then I'm also gonna grab my brown sugar for some sweetness to it, and rice vinegar. Okay, I found this recipe online, so it's probably 3 years ago. I have no idea where it was from. I always do that with the ketchup. And I'm running out, so enjoy that. I just do ketchup. I'll get the tamari in there. And this is all eyeballing. I have no idea how much of everything I use. But it's more of a feeling than a measurement. I use a lot of this stuff. I like it spicy and I like it a little bit sweet. So that in there. And then we do some brown sugar. Honestly, probably too much sugar, but it tastes good. And it counteracts some of that spice. So brown sugar, tamari, ketchup, gochujang, and then we'll do like the tiniest little dash of rice vinegar to also like offset the taste a little bit. I usually I debate whether I want to put water in here. I feel like that's literally just so that it doesn't like burn up as soon as I put it on the pan. You know, it has some like more moisture to evaporate before it starts like kind of getting like more, I don't know what you call it, thick, like you thicken it up or whatever. So I probably will put like literally the tiniest little amount of water in here. And by tiniest little, I mean like, you know, a couple drops, like just run it under the super low running sink. And I just mix it up. And I'll put all my ingredients away because we're done with them. I'll try to clean up as I go. That way I don't have to deal with that shit after I'm done eating. And new ketchup to put in the fridge. And I'll show you how my tofu is cooking on the pan over here. Literally just putting on oil in the pan and turn it up in a minute. And sometimes that burns it, and like you see there, like it sticks to the pan, and then it just becomes like a mess of little flakes of tofu. And that's not what I want. I want them to stay as uniform pieces as possible. It's inevitable. Like I usually step away from this and then there's like pieces stuck, but you know, just frying that a little bit. My rice is getting close to being done. It's almost through all that water, so that just can like sit on the stove with no burner on. And then yeah, like my broccoli is in the oven. It's probably gonna be done in like 5 minutes. So I'll update you. The other thing that like wasn't my favorite about that quart of roses and thorns, I felt like they were forcing whatever relationship was in that book, like between the two main characters. It felt very forced. It didn't feel like natural. It felt like this is what we have to write about, so we're gonna do this. And there was no like actual chemistry between the characters, no build up. And like that one, I guess, is supposed to be a little bit more like spicy than the Throne of Glass series. And it definitely was. Like they got right kind of into that stuff. And that's fine too. Like I like a spicy book. But if I'm gonna read a series, I would prefer to have more build up. Like I wanna read the first book thinking like, will they, won't they? When will they, if they do? And I felt like with that one, I was like, oh, well, they're doing it already. Like, everything's already going on. And it just, like, didn't make me want to keep reading it, for real. The Throne of Glass is much more, like, who is her love interest? Does she have a love interest? Is that, like, just a friendship? Like, it's much more, I want to say, like, thought-provoking. Like, you can actually kind of think about it instead of it being like, well, this is already, you know, like, obvious or whatever. And even though I did say I do like an obvious read, an easy, simple read, everything kind of laid out for you, I like that that was the main thing that you didn't know. Like, you didn't know really who she was going to end up with. I still don't know who she's going to end up with. But it's also not like Twilight. Like, it's not like, I don't know, it's not for sure that she's gonna end up with either. It's just like there's flirting of both and like the idea of both, and I appreciate that because it's not so like, yeah, I don't know, it's not so clearly she's gonna end up with one or the other, or like I don't know, like the Hunger Games always got me too. That one was so weird, the forced like relationship that she had between Peeta and Gale and shit. Like that one, and I was like in 7th grade when I read it, so of course like it was interesting to me, but not the love story about it, you know. The Throne of Glass had me reading for the story and also for like the long term. Like I wanted to know what's gonna happen in 3 books, and so that's why I'm reading the second one, because I'm actually like hooked. And I like that about that book. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a big fantasy girl. So if you can get me on a fantasy book, I feel like you've done your job, and I am enjoying it so far. Sometimes I'll put like, and I'm gonna do it today, just like the tiniest little bit of pepper and salt on my tofu, like before I even put the sauce in there. I don't know, that's what the recipe said to do, and after a while I like stopped doing it because I was like, well, is that even making a difference? And I still don't know if it is or not. I just do it sometimes and don't do it other times, and I really don't think there's much of a difference. But hey, since I'm showing you what I'm making for dinner, I might as well show you the way that the recipe says to make it. And that's just a little bit of salt and pepper in the pan. So we've got our tofu. I'm literally just tossing it around. Again, I don't want to have the heat too high because it will burn the tofu and it'll stick the bottoms of the tofu to the pan. And then I'm just like scraping away little like chunks of tofu that are burnt. And then once I put the sauce in the pan, like, I don't know, it's just like not the most appealing thing ever. And I like my food to look good and I like it to taste good. And the taste doesn't get affected by that, but the look does. And, you know, I like a good presentation. I'm taking my tofu out just to double check that it's like not burning. Because like I said, I do like to like char it. But I have burnt it a couple times and then I won't even eat it. So there's like a fine line. I know that like Jared will say like, you're just burning it anyway. It's the degree of burntness that I'm doing. And he might be right, but there is like a certain degree that I will eat and then it gets too far and then it's like actually burnt to a crisp. So I am putting it back in, but I'm probably gonna just turn the oven off now because my tofu is like almost ready to put the sauce in the pan. And then the rice is just sitting there. It's done cooking. It's just sitting on the burner so that it stays warm. But yeah, I don't even need to like roast my tofu to where it's like crispy. I just want it all like super hot and, you know, a little bit of crisp on the edge instead of being just like wet tofu. So I'm turning up the heat a little bit for now. Trying to make sure my rice isn't getting stuck to the bottom because it's still on the burner. Which it did a little bit, which is literally what I was trying to avoid because I just talked all that shit about a rice cooker and now I'm doing the same shit with myself. But it's because I'm recording and I never recorded myself, so I'm a little distracted, as you can tell. Okay, it's been like long enough, but my tofu is, you know, the sauce is all mixed in there. It's ready to eat. My rice is ready. My broccoli. Someone might think that's terrifying, but listen, I'm about to devour this and then we will start doing chores around the house. So, brief intermission while I do that. Okay, so I'm just going around the house because it's trash day. So I'm grabbing all the trash, trying to get that taken care of before it gets too late. Like, it's been getting dark so early now that I don't want to, you know, take the trash out in the complete dark. So this is what I'm doing after I eat dinner. The trash is taken out. Now, time for odds and ends chores. I just ran the dishwasher and I started a load of laundry. And I'll probably end up cleaning up a little bit upstairs in my bedroom because I kind of hate how messy it is. But Probably won't do too much because I did work today, so I'm a little bit tired, but it's Otto. He says hello. He's so cute with his little one eye. And tummy troubles. This is tummy troubles. That's it for today. Thank you for watching. This is really just for me to rant, but I'm gonna read Crown of Midnight on my Kindle and probably get ready for bed.